Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and today we're gonna play The Farmer Was Replaced, where you get to program and optimize a drone to automate farming tasks. Imagine the satisfaction of simply pressing execute and watching your drone do all the hard work for you. As you collect resources, you unlock better technology and become the most efficient farmer in the world. It's also a great way to improve your problem solving and coding skills, since the coding language of this game is very close to Python. So without any further ado, let's dive into the game and see what it is about. We are going to be greeted with this help window as well as a coding window. The help window I'm going to get out of the way since I'm going to be explaining things as we go along. We have our little drone here that is just going to follow the code, and then the pig is going to collect everything the drone harvests for the storage. The first command we have access to is the harvest command that is simply going to harvest. Every time we want to execute a function such as this, we have to put some brackets behind. Now we can start the operation and just click a couple of times to collect the hay. Once we have 5, we can go into the loop section and already unlock the while loop. So now we could already put this in a loop saying, well, this is true, we want to harvest. Now what this is going to do is execute this over and over again, and because our drone is slow enough, the loop is adding up perfectly. With enough hay under our belts, we can now speed up the drone, and now something breaks in the code, but we also unlock the if statement. By harvesting a crop too early, you just get to destroy it and you don't collect anything. So what we want to do is say if can harvest, which is another function, then we want to harvest. Otherwise, we want to wait a little bit. So we can say else we want to do a flip, which is basically just wait a little bit. Now let's run the code again, and we can see every time it attempts to harvest while it's not ready, it's gonna do a flip instead. I now got enough hay to unlock the planting portion, which is going to allow us to plant a different type of plant, the bush. However, one thing that is going to make everything substantially faster is the expand, because we can now work multiple field tiles and also move the drone. Since there's only one line of fields, this is going to be quite easy. If we can harvest, we want to harvest, and then we want to move towards north. And then we can probably leave out the else statement. Let's try that. There we go. Much more efficient, not wasting any time. And we're going straight for the next upgrade. Oh, by the way, I should mention, if you move north on the topmost tile, you are just looping back around. We can now go ahead and unlock a increased yield of the grass. So we should be getting like 2 hays instead of just 1. I'm going to spend the 200 hay necessary to unlock census, which is going to give us a whole bunch of commands to analyze our surroundings and certain states of the drone. Right now we're done with all the upgrades we can get by just collecting hay. We have to go for the bushes next. In order to do so, I'm simply gonna plant one of these bushes with the plant entities.bush function. Let's create a quick new window. I'm gonna name this clear, and we're simply gonna clear the function, and this is gonna reset everything. So I can run the code and actually debug it properly. So right now the problem is the drone doesn't move on, even though the bushes take much longer to grow. So what we're gonna do is simply bring back the else statement, and we're gonna move north either way. This isn't properly optimized, but we just need to get past this stage. So the drone is scanning for a bush to be ready to harvest. Then we're going to do 1 row of hays and then another row of bushes. Once we have enough wood, which we should have, I can unlock more stuff like the carrots and the debug tools. Yeah, let's maybe unlock that right away so we can do some print statements if we need to check on what our code is producing. Maybe getting another speed upgrade, it's just 10 wood. I can totally see this being useful. For the operators, which is a very important unlock, I just need 30 wood, but 300 hay. That means for now, I'm gonna comment out the plant entity bush, and we're just gonna do the hay. And there it is, already 300 operators unlocked. Yeah, here we get all the arithmetic operations, the comparisons, and the booleans. I collected another 20 logs to unlock another expand upgrade. So now our farm should be 3 by 3, and we also unlocked the for loop, which is really important. So let's stop that, reset the field, and get back into coding. I'm gonna get rid of this. I think it's easier because now we wanna run a loop that allows the drone to check all of the fields and then loop back to the first field. With the for loop, we say for I in range, and then we want to get a variable. The world size at the moment is 3. So there might be a 3 because the world size is 3, but much easier is to just get the variable get world size. And that is actually a function. So we put double brackets and then we have to close the bracket from the range. So basically this is going to repeat everything we do in here 3 times. We want to move north 1, 2, 3 times. So we will end up in the same space as we are now. Move north. What else do we want to do? We want to check if we can harvest 3 times and then harvest if we can. So if can harvest, then we want to harvest. And then since we have 2 types of materials, I want to check whatever the heck I'm needing. Let's say we are going to go for 300 hay and 100 wood. So I'm first going to check the number of items. And of course, the item is going to be hay. And I'm going to check if it is smaller than 300. If that is the case, then we want to plant entities grass. If that is not the case, then we want to plant entities bush. Because then we already have 300 hay and we're just going to stock up on bushes or wood. And then outside of the for loop, we must not forget to also move east. So we do it 3 times, then we move east, do it 3 times again, move east, do it 3 times again. So it's basically doing one row after another. Maybe I'm gonna push this number up to 500 so we can actually see the switch, because it should be collecting all of the hay now, going through all of the rows. And now as soon as we go above the 500 mark, it should start planting the bushes. Wonderful. And then if we spend the hay again, drop below the 500 mark, it should go for the hay again. Now this is a little bit weird that we start harvesting the first field in the center. Maybe I can change that. Maybe before we start, we're gonna do a clear and then move the drone south. This is gonna make the drone go here, and then we start harvesting the first field here at the bottom. Okay, let's try that. Yes, okay, I like that much better. The next unlock is gonna be the carrots. Let's have a look at that. We need to till the soil now, and we also need to purchase seeds. So now we are after 3 crops, and every time we want to plant some carrots, we also need to purchase seeds. Instead of this being an else statement, let's say elif, which is basically else if. And now I'm gonna check the number of items that I have. Items wood. Let's say if that is below 300, then we want to plant the entities bushes. Whoops, I already had that. And if both of these demands are satisfied, we're gonna go for the carrots. So this is gonna become our else statement now. First of all, I wanna check how many seeds do I actually have. So if number of items, carrot, seed. If that is equal to 0, then I want to buy something, and we do that with the trade function. We have to define what we want to buy. So items, carrot, seed, of course. Now that we have the seed, we also have to check whether or not we need to till the soil, because if we till the soil while it's not tilled, it's going to be tilled, and it's basically a toggle. So we can switch back and forth between tilled and not tilled. We do that with the function get ground type. And if that is equal to grounds.turf, because the soil is what we want, the soil is the tilled version. But if it is a turf, then we want to till it. And after we tilled it, we want to go ahead, plant entities, carrots, right? I forgot a bracket right there. Let's test it again and just keep on going. See how it does. So now we should be collecting bushes until we get 300 wood. And once we have the 300 wood, we are going to get into the else statement here and also collect the carrots. Maybe to see this a little bit quicker in action, I'm going to move it to 100. The goalpost here almost reached 100. And now, well, we made a mistake. Oh, I'm such a dummy. The bracket should close right here, of course. Wonderful. And now we can see we're planting still the bushes because we went down to 99 wood, because the carrot seeds actually cost me 1 wood each. But you can already see we're now planting the carrots, and it looks like we're still capable of planting the bushes on tilled soil. However, I want this to be clean, so only tilled soil whenever we have something that requires it. That means I want to untill the soil if get ground type equals grounds soil, then we want to till. And the same thing for the bushes, we can just copy this over. Okay, let's test it out again. Yeah, this seems to be working phenomenally. Now we're planting the bushes again and we're untilling the soil. I like that. That means we should head back into the unlocks. We could already get the variables, definitely unlock variables. That's going to be useful. The next thing we should be unlocking right now is watering. Just 100 carrots and we get access to new items. The empty tank that is going to fill itself. The more empty tanks we have, the faster they fill. And then we also have get water to estimate how much water one soil already contains. And there are 5 levels of watering from the looks of it. So let's stop this code again and clear the field. If we can harvest, this doesn't change. So we're just gonna harvest, right? However, now we need to check whether or not we need to purchase some tanks, the water tanks. So I'm gonna say if number of items dot water tank, or actually empty tank. No, let's say water tank, because we want the water tanks, the filled up version, and then the empty tanks we're just gonna purchase if we need more filled up water tanks. So let's say if that is smaller than 100, then we want to trade items, but this time we want the empty tank. Next up, we're gonna do the watering if necessary. That means if get water, was it? Yes. If that is smaller than, let's say, it's a value between 1 and 0. So let's say 0.75 or so. Then we want to use an item, which is gonna be the item water tank, of course. So now to make this clear, this is gonna be the hay section. Then, whoa, what did I just do? Wrong button. This is going to be the wood section, and then down here currently we have the carrot section. Now honestly, instead of making this an else statement, I also want to check the amounts of carrots that I have and only farm for them if I go below that number. So we're gonna scratch the else statement and say elif number of items carrot is less than, let's say, 200, or let's go with 100, and the wood I'm gonna bump up to 300 again. Only then I want to execute the carrot code and plant new carrots. And then this would be next row. Let's do this again, check if that still works. And it looks as though it does. Now I think with the variables, it would be good to also add a bunch of variables instead of these numbers, so I can change that. In order to define a variable, we just have to come up with a word with a variable. I'm gonna name this water tank, so it's straightforward. We want 100 water tanks, right? Then the next one is gonna be hay. We want 500 hay at the moment. The next one is gonna be wood. We want 300 wood. The next one is going to be carrot. We want 100 carrots. And so all we have to do is bring this code over here. Let's define that just in the beginning, not inside of the while loop. And now I can go ahead and just exchange these numbers with my variables. The hay is going to be here, the wood right there, and the carrot right there. Actually, let me make this a little bit more clear. Let's say water tank cap, and I'm gonna name these all cap. Of course, also change them down here again, cap. That should now still function. And we can also see I now have the empty tanks right here. And the more empty tanks I have, the more filled tanks I'm gonna get. Right now, I'm a little bit in a deficit with the wood, which is okay. As soon as we have stocked up on the water tanks, actually, we should be okay using the wood to fill up the storage again. It now basically needs to water every tile about 5 times, which is always gonna use up our water tanks. But we already have 68. If we get 100 empty tanks, we should be producing 1 full water tank every 2 seconds or so. And now whenever I want to change the numbers because we need a higher limit, I can do so without looking for it in the code. I'm gonna label this properly still. These are gonna be variables, right? And this is the main loop. The next unlock we want to go for is definitely the trees, which is going to allow us to get wood substantially faster, but there's going to be a little caveat to it. Also, the functions, maybe we can unlock that very soon. This way we will be able to break apart the code a little bit and make it easier for us. Okay, looks like slowly but surely we watered all of the fields, so I'm starting to accumulate the full water tanks, but I still need 100 before I actually start to accumulate the wood again. So I'm gonna be right back once this this happens. Good, we're finally at a stage where we're collecting the wood again. Now, what probably will happen after we collected enough wood, we're going for the carrots, and after that, it's probably just gonna default on collecting hay. And I'm not sure I want that. I technically want the drone to stop harvesting when we don't need anything. There we go. We're now going for the carrots. This is looking very good. You can see it's running through here. Now we're collecting wood again because we went below the 300. And now that we reached the threshold again, we're going for the carrots. No, we actually already reached the carrot threshold and therefore we're now collecting the hay, as mentioned before. Well, honestly, from the looks of it, we're gonna need plenty of hay in the future. Like the grass upgrade is just gonna keep on incrementing. And so it wouldn't even be bad if it defaults to collecting the hay once we're done with everything else. In this case, I'd much rather go for an expand upgrade, which is gonna expand our farm to 4x4. And because we use the get world size, the drone is gonna accommodate to that right away. Yes, very good. Now we have to make the drone much faster. We can do that with carrots and wood. It is definitely our biggest bottleneck at the moment. You can see the harvest is ready everywhere, but the drone isn't quick enough. There it is, 300 to 400%. The next upgrade, 100 wood and 200 carrots. That means we need to raise the carrot cap, and let's maybe also go up with the wood cap to 500. The hay cap I'm gonna put to 750. And now I can just leave this running for a little while. Looks like the bigger problem we have right now is that we have to plant so many berry bushes. It is time to unlock the trees. We can do that right now. The thing about trees is they cannot be planted next to each other. Well, they can, but they will not yield as much. So our goal should be to plant it in a checkerboard pattern. We can do that with the coordinate grid. If we look at the field as a grid, the lowest tile here, it would be x0, y0, and then x increases due east and y increases due north. If we think about this logically, the checkerboard pattern always consists of a number divisible by 2 for y and not divisible by 2 for x, or vice versa. Therefore, if we make sure to only plant trees where the x and y positions only have one odd number, we should be planting the trees in a checkerboard pattern. Before I do anything else though, I'm gonna go for the next speed upgrade. That is definitely gonna help. Okay, let's still use this script. Later we're gonna kind of take this apart to make it more readable, but for now what we want to do is in the wood section we want to change a few things. If we're not at the wood cap, we first of all want to plant a tree if it is at the correct position. So we want to say if get position x, and we want to divide it by 2 with the percentage mark. If it is divisible by 2, it will spill out a 0, otherwise not. So if that equals to 0, and also get position y, if that equals to 1. But theoretically, we can also have it the other way around. That means or get position x divided by 2, giving the rest of 1, so it isn't divisible, but then get position y is divisible by 2, so that means it will result in 0. So with the double equal sign, we check a value. If we just had one equal sign, we would try to set a value. Now to make this a little bit easier, I'm gonna create variables for x, which equals get position x, and then y would be get position y. Oh yeah, I totally forgot the brackets here either way, but I wanted to exchange these with the variables because that's gonna make it much more readable and smaller. So if x is divisible by 2, and y isn't, totally forgot the percentage and 2 here. Or if x isn't divisible by 2 and y is divisible by 2, then we want to plant the trees. So plant entities tree. Wonderful. If this condition isn't the case, then we want to do an else statement, because then we want to plant the bushes, because we still need the wood. Right, so we're just gonna bring this into the else statement, and that should be see everything. Let's run the script and test it out. As soon as we need some wood, we should be seeing the wood being planted, and it looks like the checkerboard pattern actually adds up. We have no trees directly adjacent to another tree, and therefore we now also collect the wood much quicker. Okay, this is great. Let's see. Functions unlock. I definitely need that. We now have access to functions, and therefore we can take things apart a little bit. Let's define a function for watering, and all we have to do for that is take this part of the code and bring it over right here. Gotta make sure though we have these at the correct spots. Gonna call this watering right there, and that should be okay. So we just have to call the function right here, watering, and the function is going to be watering. There it is already in the autocomplete. And now I can basically get this a little bit out of the way, and I just know right here happens watering, and I can search for that if I need to. I'm gonna do the same thing for planting. We define a function called planting, and inside of here I'm gonna have everything that has to do with planting, making the main script and the main loop much easier to read. This can also move over, and we just have to add it right here. Planting, brackets, and that's it. Let's make sure it's still working, and you can see all of these scripts are now working together. These are just functions I can refine later on once I get more stuff. Like if I get another seed type, I can just get into the planting and add it right there. Increase the yield of carrots, seems like a reasonable upgrade. Increase the yield of bushes and trees, definitely a worthwhile upgrade. I'm now just upgrading whatever the heck I can with whatever the heck I'm getting. It might be time to increase the yields a little bit. We're gonna go for 1,000 hay, 750 wood, and 500 carrots. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Increasing the yield is so important. Now the wood is going up like crazy, and so are the carrots. Oh, we should totally go for multi-trade upgrades. This is a very basic upgrade, but it's gonna help us. Basically, whenever we buy something, we can just purchase like 5 of them at a time, such as the carrot seeds. Also, the empty tanks right here, let's just purchase 5 at a time. You know, less actions, less time used. I need to increase my yields a little bit. I'm gonna go up to 2,000 with the hay, 1,000 with the wood. No, actually 1,500 wood and 3,000 hay. And let's push the carrots up to 1,000. Okay. Oh, I actually ended up with a little error here. As I fulfilled all the needs, it just tilled the soil, and therefore there's no hay regrowing. However, I can just reset it, and now it should keep on going. Let's unlock some more stuff, increasing the speed of the drone and also increasing the yield of the grass. I also want to do a carrot yield upgrade, and we can also do another bushes and trees upgrade. Okay, the next thing we're gonna go for are probably the pumpkins. Actually, the sunflowers are a little bit cheaper to unlock. Maybe that is supposed to go first. I'm gonna unlock the sunflowers. It might give us some neat functionality. Sunflowers are a little bit special in that they have various amounts of petals, and you can only, or you should only, harvest the sunflower with the most petals currently on the field. And this is gonna give you power. The power is then gonna be used by the drone to be even faster. Now we have a new function called measure. So whenever the drone is above a petal, we can measure the amount of petals it has, and therefore we could make some kind of a comparison. But I was thinking maybe it is safer to only plant 1 petal at a time. Actually, before we do that, let me get this crazy drone another upgrade. We can do the speed upgrade or grass yield. Yeah, I think grass yield is gonna be good. And I'm also gonna get a speed upgrade while I'm at it. Also time to up the cap to 6,000 and even more. You get the basic gist. It is an incremental game. I think to get started with the sunflowers, I only want to plant one in the first tab, not to risk to actually harvest them in the wrong way. And then we might be able to get a boost halfway through the field to at least take advantage of it in the beginning. So what I'm gonna do is make another section here in the planting code, and that's gonna be sunflowers. And we're gonna say, let's actually copy over the code. It's gonna be the same thing as the carrot, so the ground needs to be tilled and everything, and we also need to purchase the seeds. So if I copy over this entire thing, that should be good. Actually, we don't need to check for the amount of sunflowers we currently have, but we need to check for the seeds and we need to purchase some seeds. But instead of carrot seeds, it's going to be sunflower seeds. And then we still need to make sure that the ground type is the right one, and we need to till it if necessary. And then we need to plant entities.sunflower. However, I only want to do this if I am at this spot. And if you remember, we set the X and Y positions right here. So we should be able to call on them. That means if X equals 0 and Y also equals 0, I should put 2 equals. If that is the case, then we want to plant the sunflower. And then we need to continue with the hay. So we change that into a elif statement. So we go through the conditions one by one. Let's test this out. This should result in a sunflower being planted. Yes, indeed, sunflower is being planted, and we can see the drone is a little bit quicker for the first 2 or 3 rows. That means as long as our fields aren't too big, we should be able to just profit from one sunflower. We can see here on the top, it doesn't give us much energy, because if we planted more sunflowers and then also collected or harvested the ones with the most petals, I think we get a little bit more energy. But for now, I'm pretty happy with that solution. It is still a substantial boost in speed. I just love it. The drone plants whatever the heck we're needing, what we don't have enough of. I like the system so far. Good. Now, I think it's time to unlock the pumpkins, which are gonna come with another caveat, namely the more pumpkins we have adjacent to each other, the more yield we're gonna be getting. And it's like exponential. So instead of 4 pumpkins or so for just one tile, we would be getting 64 pumpkins if we had 4 pumpkins adjacent to each other. However, one in about 5 pumpkins is gonna die off. That means if I plant 4 pumpkins next to each other and one dies off, I'm still not gonna get the maximum yield. So I think whenever we are having the need of pumpkins, I'm gonna clear the field and I'm gonna make a for loop just for the pumpkins to completely cover the field in pumpkins and just harvest for that. I also noticed whenever I start the function, it kind of moves out of the way. So I think I'm gonna clear and then do a flip. Maybe we might even do multiple flips. No, it was enough. Okay, that's a better start. Holy cow, the sunflower really does its job. Jeez, okay, let's increase the yield of trees once again. And now I should be able to unlock the pumpkins as well. There it is. 2x2 pumpkin yield is 8. 3x3 is gonna be 27. And 4x4 pumpkin yield is going to be 64. So I think realistically what we should be aiming for is 3 2x2s. But yeah, let's see how we're going to handle this. For the pumpkins, we can basically repeat the carrot code, because technically once we require the pumpkins, we are just working on that. And maybe we're gonna eliminate the sunflower eventually, but for now I just copied this over. So we have the pumpkin function here. If the number of items is below the pumpkin cap, which is something we still have to set, then we want to check the amount of seeds we have. If we don't have enough, we're gonna purchase 5 of them. And if the ground isn't the right one, we want to till it, and then we want to plant the entities. So same thing as the carrots. And then we just want to set the pumpkin cap to, let's say, 500. Good. Now we should be planting a sunflower and the rest is going to be pumpkins. Let's maybe just put this to the test, see how it does. Yeah, there we go. The pumpkins, and they should be okay. Eventually they are actually growing together. Right now it looks like the drone is much too quick for them to be able to do that. And also the soil is still not good. I think after harvesting, I want to make sure the soil is at its default type. So if it is soil, then I want to till it, and we're just going to do that here. Geez, I don't get it to work. It just remains tilled. So maybe if we cannot harvest, then we want to till it. Yeah, I think that might work, though I'm not sure what happens if I till it if something is already on there, but it looks like we're already getting a decent amount of pumpkins. Yeah, every now and then some are growing together, not quite too much. much, but we do get some 2x2s. So maybe this is a good enough starter solution, and we also fix the problem with the tilled soil. This technically should allow us to get some upgrades like the utilities, or we can already get a pumpkin upgrade that is going to increase the yield. I should be doing that. I will be able to unlock fertilizer lists. Ooh, that's interesting. And then I still need access to the treasure. Not sure. I would say we are at a fun little state here. We probably just have to play around with the caps now a little bit and go for some more upgrades. Okay, so far so good. This seems to be working great, especially to unlock even more upgrades. We can now even expand the farm one more time. So it is now a 5x5, and actually just doing the wood, one sunflower is more than enough. But eventually I would like to see one row of sunflowers and we analyze which one is the best before we harvest it. I also upped all of my caps, as you can see here, with 20,000 for the hay, 10,000 for the wood, 5,000 carrots and 1,000 pumpkins. And you know what? Getting to 6x6 only will cost us 500 pumpkins. We're gonna reach that in no time. Like, I think right now it's pumpkin time. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think with a bigger field we're gonna get much luckier in terms of pumpkin combinations. Of course, we still need to plant carrots in order to be able to purchase the pumpkins. But there we go. We just got a 3x3 there. That is enough for the next expansion. And here it is. Oh, look at that. I even have to move my windows. Now it would definitely be worth thinking about a sunflower mechanic. Okay, now the code also doesn't break anymore. We get back to just harvesting hay if we don't have anything else to do. I think considering there are 5 stages of watering, I'm gonna up the number here to 0.8. So we should be getting a complete 1 watered tile. And now we can just keep on unlocking stuff like more tree yields. We could also use the fertilizer. Actually, this would make the sunflowers much more interesting if we just used a fertilizer to make them grow instantly. It will just grow it by 2 seconds, so not completely. Also, fertilizer dries up the ground. Okay, I simplified a little something here. At the beginning of each movement, we're actually gonna check whether or not we need some seeds, and we're gonna purchase them all the way up to a cap of 100. And I'm also purchasing them in a quantity of the world size, so in this case it would be 6 seeds at a time. I already had a little code ready in order to test it out with 1 row, but I realized very quickly that 1 row of sunflowers is not going to be enough. We need to do the entire field and then actually get the sunflower with the most petals. So that's going to be fun to figure out. Oh yeah, I also accidentally left the game running for a little while, so we ended up with about 500,000 hay. What can I say? We can actually go for another upgrade. We should totally do that. Getting a bigger farm, maybe even 1 more. No, we need some more pumpkins for that. But we definitely can go for a couple of tree upgrades. Actually, we maxed it out. I also already maxed out the grass levels here. And for the speed upgrade, we now actually need to collect the power very efficiently, so we actually get to keep it. And therefore, my method wasn't enough. Maybe it would be a good idea to unlock the min-max ability. This way we can, I think, extract the maximum value out of an array. And then I guess we also need to unlock the lists, which we should be able to do. Yeah, we can store multiple values in a single variable. Yeah, holy cow. We could theoretically track the entirety of the field this way with the lists. This is actually pretty powerful. And there it is. There's also the len function that allows us to return the length of a list. Okay, this is now really interesting. You know, I wonder what happens if we treat the sunflower normally, like any other plant for the time being. That means we change the statements to num items, and we want to check, let me see, for items power. If that is smaller than our power cap, which we still have to define over here, let's put that right below the pumpkins. Power cap, I'm gonna put that to 50 for now, I don't know. Then we want to plant the sunflowers. So right now we are actually going for it first, even before the hay. Let's see how that feels. That is going to plant sunflowers all over the place, and it's also going to harvest them and destroy them again. However, I just want to see how everything behaves and whether or not this is going to be completely stupid. Okay, it is indeed completely stupid, because the first sunflower, of course, isn't going to be the best one. Let's think about what we want to track. It's going to be the position of the drone. It's going to be the position of the sunflower with the most petals. Yeah, I need to think about this for a bit. Okay, guys, I just totally well, not quite accidentally, but I stumbled across the perfect solution here. And it's not much code that I added, so I'm not going to redo it. But basically, I added a pedal list. So I just created a new list at the beginning when we run the script. Next up, instead of just harvesting, what I'm doing here is harvesting the sunflowers. So if we can harvest, we also want to check the entity type. So if it is a sunflower, then we don't just want to harvest, we want to do something else. But if it is not a sunflower, we keep on going as usual. So before I can explain this part, we need to move over here into the planting section. Right here, we check if we need some power, and then we need to till, and then we need to plant. And once we plant it, we want to add the pedals or the measurement of the pedals into the pedal list. So this is why I pedal list append. I just add the measurement, the current pedals. So now with that list, we can actually check if currently the measured plant, the measured sunflower below us, is equal to the max pedal on the list. So the maximum amount that we have inside the pedal list, then we want to harvest because that's the flower with the most pedals. But then we also want to go ahead and remove that value from the list because we harvested the sunflower and we want to then remove the max pedal list from that list. And this actually resulted in a much more advanced script than I intended because all I wanted it to do was do the first pass and then I wanted to think about the second pass. But because we are now removing all of these values, the sunflowers now completely should be harvested. And you can also see we have a little bit of power here. My power cap at the moment is really low, so I'm gonna set this to 1000 and then we're gonna run the script again. We're gonna plant all the sunflowers and you will see that we're just picking the ones with the highest values in the first pass here. And then in the second pass, we're already grabbing some other sunflowers and we just keep on planting. And because we always can track the highest value inside of the list with the max value, we are absolutely golden. Now, I think there's still going to be scenarios where this can fail, but I just have to check. Right now, this seems to be working good. We have a complete field with sunflowers. The only thing it doesn't seem to be doing is the watering because we have that in the else statement. We are only watering if we're not doing the sunflowers at the moment. We're now approaching the 1000 threshold. That's not too shabby. I'm still fairly happy with the solution. I want to know what happens once other stuff is actually coming into play. I think this is going to be great because we gradually get rid of all the sunflowers in the correct order if we don't need them anymore. So check this out. Once we reach 1000, other stuff should be planted. Yeah, there we go. Now we're going for the hay and the wood again, and eventually all the sunflowers are going to be taken out. Yeah, this is amazing. Okay, well, I can live with the mistake. I'm sure we're going to fix that. We're also going to be optimizing some more of the code, but I'm really glad about this new list functionality and also the ability to get the maximum value out of a list. Now, with power at our disposal, we should actually be able to unlock more stuff. Dictionaries, no, we still have to search for that. Polyculture, oh no, use companion planting to increase yield. I'm not sure. They have like adjacency bonuses. If we use the get companion function above a bush, we get an output like this, and that means that at position 3 and 5 of the bush, it would like to have a carrot, and then it will yield 10 times as much. That's insane. Okay, right now the drone is going crazy. I'm gonna up my caps again. I now collected 2,500 power. It seems to be working phenomenally, I have to say. And now we're switching to another crop again. Wonderful. Let's get the speed upgrade right there. Alrighty, I am back. The code changed just very slightly. What I mostly did is just take apart the code a little bit and put it into functions so that I have a better overview of what's going on. Like now we are buying all the stuff in one function and it's just overall niftier. In terms of unlocks, I now basically maxed out everything that I currently can without actually going for the next material, the treasures, which is really interesting. So that is something I would like to touch on in today's episode still. After that, we still unlock a few things, but I think I'm gonna leave some stuff up for exploration for you, such as the cacti. Unfortunately, the game isn't too long. There's not too much stuff in it, so I really hope they are gonna expand on the idea slightly. Either way, we can leave this running now. I have all or most of my caps at 100,000, except for the hay is at 300,000 and the power cap is at 15,000. And now we can just watch the drone do its thing, and it's just a sight of beauty. Now we're gonna reach the 100k mark for the wood, so we're gonna switch to carrots immediately. We then do a couple of passes of carrots, but you can see up here in the corner it's going up rather quickly, so I do not worry about that. Then once we've done the carrots, we will be going for the pumpkins, so let's just wait for this to happen until we reach 100k. There it is, 100k, so we are switching to pumpkins now. The pumpkins aren't really optimized yet. We could add a whole bunch of functions in order to make sure that we get the biggest, fattest pumpkins. Right now we went below the power cap, so we planted a field of sunflowers, and now we're gradually getting rid of it, collecting the rest of the power while still harvesting the pumpkins. So yeah, there are still a few things that I could optimize, but I really like to get into the maize because that is something completely different from the plants. Good, we've now almost reached the 100k mark with the pumpkins. I just love how the drone automatically switches to everything that we need. This is really a fun game concept, I have to say. And ooh, look, that juicy pumpkin there. Nice. And there it is. Now we're only harvesting the hay. Now instead of harvesting the hay when we don't have anything to harvest, I would like to go for the maize. So the first thing we need to do is to be aware of how to make a maize, and you do that by planting bushes and then fertilizing them. So the first thing we have to do is to make sure that we have enough fertilizer. So if num items dot fertilizer is smaller than 100, then I want to buy them. Trade items dot fertilizer, and I just went with get world size. So in our case that would be 10. I could just also write 10 here. But yeah, now we should be purchasing the fertilizer as well. Let's see that. Yeah, right here, 100 fertilizer. Perfect. Now when it comes to harvesting, we need to make some adjustments here. This would be the normal harvesting functionality right below here. And now I want to add a functionality here to create the maize. So right here, I'm checking whether or not we have a sunflower below us to do the measuring, and right here we can check if there is a bush below us. So we want to get the entity type. If that equals to entities.bush, then we want to go ahead and use the item fertilizer. However, we only want to do that if we have enough wood. Otherwise, we want to treat it as a normal bush and just harvest it. So I'm gonna say also, and if num items.wood, if that is bigger than my wood cap, only then we want to do that. If both of these conditions are true, we want to use the fertilizer and potentially produce a maize. I think there's a 10% chance every time you use the fertilizer on a bush. And I'm not sure. I think the maize is always going to be the size of the field, but we shall see. So now let's go ahead and test this out. Let's just see what happens. Right now we're still planting the pumpkins because we're below 100,000, but that should change. Well, now we're going for the carrots. We still need to purchase the seeds and everything, but there we go. Carrots are over. That means, wait a second. Of course, if we are at the wood cap, we don't actually have any bushes to fertilize, so we still need to add that here in the planting section. In our case, when we stopped planting the pumpkins, we just want to default to planting the maize, so we can add a else statement. Let's call this maize, and then we can say else, and we just get the ground type for the bushes. Let me actually see, what was that? The bushes, yeah, ground soil. We actually just want turf, so if it is soil, then we want to till it and then plant the pumpkins. No, not the pumpkins, we want to plant the bush, of course. So now we have a bush, and then on the top here we're gonna fertilize it. Let's check out how that actually looks. Bushes are being planted. Oh, maybe we should fertilize them right off. Oh, did you see that? There was a maize for a brief second. So I think I want to add another functionality here to solve the maize. For now, I'm just gonna wait so we can check the maize out. We can check for a maize right here. If get entity type. If it is entities hedge, then I just want to do a flip for now, so we can see this in action. Get all the bushes planted, and there we go. We have a maze, and there is the treasure. Okay, how do we solve a maze? Basically, every time we get to a dead end, we just turn left, and if we do this all the time, or turn right and do this all the time, eventually we should be able to solve the maze, right? So maybe instead of just doing a flip, we're gonna add a function. I'm gonna call it solve maze, and of course that is something we still have to go go ahead and define. Let's do that right here. That would be def solve maze, and now we have to define it. I'm gonna define a direction variable. Let's just call this direction equals north. So by default, we just go north. And then I'm gonna check whether or not we are actually inside of the maze. So if there is a hedge below us, actually thinking about it, we want to solve the maze until we have found the treasure. So we need to check for the treasure entity type. So as long as we haven't found the treasure, entities.treasure, then let's say we're just gonna turn towards the right side. So direction equals turn right. So that is still something we have to define. You know what? I think I'm gonna need an additional window where we define a couple of directions. Let's say define turn right is gonna be a function, and I'm actually gonna be using the direction variable here. If direction equals north, then we want to return west because we want to turn to the right direction. No, that's actually east, going right. Okay. If direction equals east, then we want to return south, turning right. Direction equals south, then we want to return west. Else we want to return north. I just need to return east. There's no equal sign here. Whoops. I'm gonna do the same thing for the left direction. So turn left. If the right solving doesn't work, then we need to do it differently. That would just be the other way around. So if we are north, then we want to return west because we're turning left. Let me just finish that. So I'm gonna name this change directions, okay? And we can just put this aside. Now we can use that to turn right or left. So now we go back to solving the maze. While we don't detect the treasure, we wanna go ahead and set the variable of direction to turn, let's do left first, with the parameter of the direction in here. Now we need to check if that is even possible, because there could be a wall preventing us from moving, and we can actually do so with just the move direction functionality. So if that is a valid thing that happened and the drone was able to move, this is going to return a true statement. Otherwise it's going to be a false. So we could say if move direction equals false, so we didn't successfully move and there was a wall, then we want to change the variable of direction and we want to turn left again. Then we need to check again, is it this time a valid movement? So if it is still false, then we once again want to change the direction. And this way we would have done a full 180 turn. Now, if turning left in the maze doesn't work, we need to switch the direction. So we're gonna do else right there. And now once again, we want to check the direction, but this time for turn right. If move direction equals false, then we want to turn right again. So direction equals turn right. And then if we are truly in a dead end, we would like to turn around once again. So if move direction is this time still false, then we want to change the direction again to turn right direction. So now we are navigating to the treasure, and once we are outside of the while loop, that means we have found the treasure and we can simply go ahead and harvest it. Okay, so now all we need to do is call upon this function. Let's see, we are already doing that if I remember correctly. Yeah, if get entity type, so as long as we are in a hedge, then we're gonna do the maze. So we're gonna do the maze in one go, and only then it should continue. Wait a second, this can't be everything. Well, I guess we have to test it. So we're gonna go ahead and create another maze right there. And ooh, okay. So we seem to be kind of stuck. Let me remove the flip here. So I think after moving, what we want to do is move again. So let's say just move direction. And if that was a successful move, okay, so that was the thing that I missed. And then we want to move direction again. And if that still was false, then we will turn around again. Okay, that might actually work. Move direction. So now we're not just staying on the spot, but we're actually moving somewhere. Let's test it out. Oh, of course, we don't really need the part here at the bottom. We just need to turn right once. Yeah, technically, if we always turn left, we should also be able to solve the maze. And this is just for safety. I might be able to get rid of it completely, but let's test it out like so. Dude, my brain is smoking. Maybe we don't need this. I'm just gonna give you the results once I have them. Okay, I think I got the culprit. What I didn't understand yet is if you set the if function here, then it's also already moving. I thought this is just checking a state, but this is actually moving the drone. So I got it a little bit mixed up with in which direction to turn. If we check the left direction right here, and we check if that was a valid move, then of course we want to turn right if it wasn't a valid move. And the same thing here, we check for the left direction. If we can move towards the left, or if we can't move towards the left, then we want to turn to the right. Okay, of course we don't want to turn to the left, otherwise we're just looping back and forth. But now this theoretically should be working. At least I'm hoping. Yeah, look at that. We're moving through the maze. Let's maybe do this step by step. So now we are switching the direction, and we're switching it due south. I think that was. South isn't a valid direction, so we're switching the direction again, and it is now, where are we ending up? West. Okay, and now we are moving west. That was a valid move, and that means we should be moving west again. Come on. There are so many steps to go through, but I think it's working out now, even though it might not be the quickest way to solve the maze. Let's see that again. Yeah, we're just moving through, and every time we get a treasure, we seem to be getting 500 items worth of it. And now we are solving the maze again. Okay, that actually seems to be working consistently. That was kind of a head scratcher, I have to say, but now we are doing the maze. Solved it every time so far. Let me see. We're probably gonna put this here. That's fine enough. And there it is. We got a treasure. Ah, how wonderful. Let's increase the yield of the sunflowers. Now we can actually go to town with the upgrades here. And we even have some debugging and benchmark functionality. We can get the time or the OP count, just kind of see how many operations we had. And debug too. Ah, that is actually useful. Functions to temporarily slow down the execution and make the grid smaller. That is intriguing. We can set the execution speed and set the farm size for debugging purposes. There are all these great tools, but we are literally almost at the very end. There are just the cacti to unlock. There are also the dictionaries that we can unlock. Ah, that's interesting. So there's real potential to optimize the code here. But yeah, I would love to see this game being taken to the next level. Maybe make an entire thing out of it where you can add code to various bots and not just one. Do various tasks and not just farming. I really do like the approach of this game though, I have to say. Allow access to the cost of things. What does that even mean? Ah, we can now get the actual costs, so we can be really precise in how much we want to purchase. But yeah, you get the basic gist. There are 2 more features or plans and things to discover that I haven't shown yet, but you can do that on your own. I think I gave you a pretty good overview of the game and what is possible. Of course, there are many ways to solve this. I probably used too many if statements, but you know, making it through the entire game with just this amount of code, I would say is pretty good, and it would be solving all the problems. So if we had this code right off the beginning, then we would be going through the entire game without having to do anything. I would say with that out of the way, we're gonna wrap it up for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I would definitely appreciate some engagement with the video. Maybe even consider subscribing. That would be absolutely amazing. But with that out of the way, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Have a great time, and hopefully I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.